The long winter break is finally over and competitive Pokemon Go is back. My name is Henry, and this past weekend in Toronto, Canada, the first regional championships of the Precious Paths meta update was held. We have not seen a regional championship since this update occurred a month and a half ago due to the winter break, so this is our first chance to see what this meta would look like. And I don't think anyone expected what happened next. A completely unknown trainer in their third ever tournament claimed the championship, and they did it with a Pokemon that was on no one's radar, Shadow Gyarados. This is DHC United, the trainer that claimed the crown, and the team they ran was Shadow Gyarados, Shadow Marowak, Altaria, Furret, Empoleon, and Corviknight. The first match we'll be taking a look at is the winners semifinals between DHC United and Lawson Cody. Lawson Cody's team is double normal, Furret and Licky, paired with Altaria, Shadow Scizor, Shadow Marowak, and Azumarill. The battlers lock in for game number 1, and it's the battle of flyers on the lead, the Shadow Gyarados versus Shadow Altaria. Shadow Gyarados' Dragon Breath inflict devastating damage onto the Altaria, and on top of that, Gyarados is able to outpace. Gyarados makes the crunch before Altaria gets the Sky Attack. Crunch lands, no debuff, but whereas the crunch was non-lethal, a Sky Attack will probably knock out the Gyarados. So Gyarados will shield right back, Cody Lawson safe switches into Licky, and there's an immediate counter switch into Furret. So DHC saving the Empoleon in the back, and Cody Lawson is running a double normal strat. His final Pokemon is going to be his own Furret. Licky is extremely bulky, so Furret looking to ramp up its damage with Trailblaze does make quite a bit of sense, because now after a few more Sucker Punches, a Swift will actually be able to secure a KO. Body Slam will land. This Licky is absolutely loaded on energy, but one more Body Slam is not going to be enough to knock out. Furret can safely no shield. Furret should be one off the Swift, able to outpace by a singular turn, and now Cody Lawson, his Licky might be in a bit of trouble. Swift is going to land. Licky, no, it hangs on, 1 HP remaining, and now DHC is at risk of losing his Furret. DHC lets the Furret go, could go for a farm down on Shadow Gyarados. Back in comes the Gyarados, quick switch by Cody into Furret. Furret, these Sucker Punches do add up, but Shadow Gyarados is so incredibly oppressive. Gyarados will be able to start pulling shields away from the Furret, the Dragon Breath adding up as well. Cody will grab the final shield with the Swift, and this game is all going to come down to Empoleon for DHC United. Cody still has all 3 Pokemon left on the field. DHC has yet to take a single knockout. Shield comes up from Cody Lawson. There's the switch. In comes Empoleon. Empoleon very healthy here. Empoleon going to be hit with the Trailblaze, but this only hits for neutral damage. DHC has to be very careful that Cody Lawson does not go for the catch. Trailblaze is going to land. When does Cody go for the catch? DHC does not let the catch happen and fires off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon will be knocking out the Furret. Furret really wanted to get to a boosted Swift, but it's not going to get there. In comes Altaria. No catch from Cody. This Drill Peck will not knock out, but it will get Altaria deep into the red. Altaria barely hangs on. Altaria is going to get farmed down, and this is going to be a Game 1 win for DHC United as Empoleon takes all 3 KOs. We move to game number 2, and unfortunately, this is the worst case scenario for DHC. DHC leads Shadow Gyarados into Azumarill, and this is an absolute nightmare. Gyarados gonna farm up. Oh my goodness, what a soul read catch. DHC overfarms massively, catches the Ice Beam onto Empoleon, and that's exactly the kind of catch you need if you want to try and survive that hard counter of a lead. So for Cody, he still has very favorable alignment, but losing that energy on Azumarill definitely not ideal. Drill Peck will land onto the Altaria. Altaria more than happy to let a second Drill Peck land as well, as it looks to farm up close to 100 energy. Flamethrower will be hitting for neutral damage onto the Empoleon. Empoleon now has to decide, is it worth double shielding and trying to make a play for switch advantage? DHC says no. Flamethrower is going to land. Empoleon not going to get there, forced to pivot out into the Furret, but Furret unfortunately can't get the snipe down before the Sky Attack is ready. Sky Attack will be shielded up by the Furret, but now DHC was unable to win switch advantage and is in a mirror endgame where he's down a shield. This is going to be a very tough game to win. Swift is going to land onto Cody's Furret, but Cody has to feel very comfortable about his positioning in this matchup, because he knows as long as he has 2 shields on Azumarill kind of can't lose this game. Swift will land onto DHC's Furret. DHC fires off the Swift, but this is not enough damage to take the knockout. Cody knows, he knows shields. Swift lands, but he knows that Furret. He survives, makes the last second Swift, and now DHC is forced to save the final Protect shield for the Shadow Gyarados. But unfortunately, Shadow Gyarados is facing a wall in Azumarill. Azumarill has been meta in the Championship Series for years. It was honestly out of the meta for a while, but with this tournament, it came back in a big way. And Shadow Gyarados can throw Aqua Tail after Aqua Tail, but the might of Azumarill just cannot be bested. DHC would need a Miracle Catch to have a chance in this game. He already did a Miracle Catch once. Can Lightning Strike twice? Gyarados' pacing is absolutely electric, as it's already at 2 more Aqua Tails, but unfortunately Azumarill still does not have to burn either Protect Shield. Aqua Tail is going to land, another Aqua Tail for DHC United, and finally, the bulky bunny rabbit Azumarill puts up its first shield. But it all comes down to a catch for DHC. DHC overfarms looking for a catch, but Cody will not let a catch happen twice. Back in comes Gyarados. It's going to get knocked out by the Play Rough, and we're going to a decisive Game 3 to decide who will advance to the winners finals. Both battlers lock in for this game number 3, and it's perfect mirror leads Furret into Furret. Now, Cody has again brought the Azumarill, which was the MVP in game number 2, but DHC has made an adjustment. After how strong the Azumarill was, DHC has actually benched the Shadow Gyarados in favor of a team that has more or less 3 answers to that Azumarill. Furret on the lead has Trailblaze, and Empoleon is a complete wall, and Corviknight, even though it can't do a lot of damage to the Azumarill, makes Azumarill go for its worst charge attack, which is Ice Beam. Cody did go straight Swift, whereas DHC ramped up his damage with the Trailblaze. Shield comes out on the Swift. DHC gonna look for the farm down here. It's gonna be close, but Disaster strikes. 1 HP remaining on that Furret, and DHC is forced to go down 2 shields on the lead. That's not what DHC was hoping for. Cody sends in Altaria, but boosted Swifts will add up considerably. Normally, Altaria can tank Swifts for days, but these are +1 Swifts, which mean they will actually do some very real damage onto the Altaria. Altaria would be a pretty big problem for this backline, so the Altaria more or less getting sacrificed is actually very good for DHC. DHC can't bring in the Corviknight. Corviknight would get melted alive by that flamethrower, so in comes Empoleon. Empoleon will still take some pretty significant flamethrower damage, but for DHC, this move is a lot more survivable. Empoleon able to hang on. DHC goes for the Hydro Cannon here, covering for a catch. But Cody's no shielding. He's saving all shields for the Azumarill. He's banking on the Shadow Gyarados being in the back. But DHC did not bring it. DHC fires off the Drill Peck. Cody Lawson still with 2 shields to work with. He's not going to shield, and this is genuinely valuable damage for DHC. DHC farming up with the Empoleon. Oh my, what a spectacular catch as Cody Lawson's Play Rough gets caught onto the Steel-type Corviknight. Corviknight absorbs that damage like it's nothing, and that wasted energy could come back to haunt Cody. Cody is going to be no shielding. He doesn't really want to shield Air Cutters, but eventually he's going to have to. Air Cutter is going to land. DHC gets the boost, and now this game is over. There's no way out for Cody Lawson, even without the boost. The Corviknight was just simply too healthy. That Play Rough catch by DHC completely flipped the outcome of this game. Air Cutter is going to be shielded by the Azumarill. No boost this time, but this is where the speed of Corviknight can just overwhelm Azumarill. Another Air Cutter is reached. Cody knows there's no way out. The Empoleon has energy. Cody's going to stay in, try and farm down. It's his only chance, but he cannot get there. DHC makes another Air Cutter. The Game 3 adjustment works to perfection, and DHC is on to Winners Finals. His opponent in Winners Finals is Kelsey K, and her team features Florges, Talonflame, Jellicent, Guzzlord, Empoleon, and Marowak. This is a nightmare matchup for DHC, as her Florges is extremely strong into his team. The battlers lock in for game number 1, and it's a perfect mirror lead, Empoleon versus Empoleon. But this is a catastrophically bad lead for DHC. If DHC wants to get wins in this matchup, his Empoleon really has to try and target down that Florges. And the Florges in the back for Kelsey is looking deadly into DHC's double flying backline of Corviknight and Shadow Gyarados. The Empoleons will trade Hydro Cannons back and forth, This is a pretty comfortable mirror match to play out because two Hydro Cannons barely missed the knockout. So you don't really have to ever worry about trying to catch out of this matchup. Instead, you can play it out, and even if you lose the matchup, your opponent leaves very low, so you can get a pretty nice farm down. Trainers are farming up who will win charge attack priority. It's a simultaneous switch out, Guzzlord into the Shadow Gyarados. Guzzlord does wall the energy from Shadow Gyarados, although Dragon Breath will be hitting for neutral damage. Brutal Swing shielded up by the Gyarados as it is incredibly frail. Gyarados farms up to the back-to-back Aqua Tails. Kelsey knows no one charge attack will be able to deliver a knockout here, so Kelsey is going to no-shield. She has the Brutal Swing, but she makes a brilliant play. She goes for the extra, not CMP tying. DHC throws on alignment and is now completely energy dry on the Gyarados. In comes Florges, it has a shield advantage, and this is where things can get bad for DHC. DHC will be able to get a shield off the Florges with the Aqua Tail and does have a Hydro Cannon banked, but the Florges will get to ramp up its attack. And Corviknight, it's stuck throwing air cutters, so it really can't damage the Florges. So as long as Kelsey saves the final shield for the move that Empoleon has in the back, Kelsey should be winning this game. Kelsey gets to fire off this Chilling Water. Chilling Water normally not too threatening, but this is an attack boosted Florges. Chilling Water does way more damage than it typically would. DHC fires off this Air Cutter, but at -1, Air Cutter is already a very unimpressive move, so a -1 Air Cutter does laughable damage. He does get the boost, sending his attack back to normal for a split second before Kelsey immediately debuffs it once again, sending it back down with the Chilling Water. In comes Empoleon, DHC fires off the Hydro Cannon, but this is where Kelsey uses her final shield. She shields up, the Florges is boosted, Florges Fairy Winds down Empoleon, back in comes the Corviknight, but this game is over because she has a Hydro Cannon of her own banked on Empoleon. DHC knows it, no shields the Chilling Water, and Kelsey K takes game 1 in this best of 5 series. For game number 2, she locks in Florges' lead and it leads into the Shadow Gyarados, and this goes from bad to worse for DHC. DHC just cannot find that Florges target with the Empoleon, and that means he's at such a big disadvantage in this matchup. Kelsey fires off the Trailblaze. This does not knock out, but will do devastating damage to the Gyarados, so shield comes up from DHC. But again, a boosted Florges is such a big problem. He has Altaria in the back. Altaria, in a weird way, actually ends up being okay into Florges because it walls off Florges' energy. And he makes a very nice catch, taking advantage of that fact as he catches a Trailblaze onto the Altaria. Altaria gonna be double resisting Trailblaze. These Fairy Winds are now double boosted, and Kelsey will look to soften up the Altaria and debuff it with a double boosted Chilling Water. Chilling Water is going to lay in onto the Altaria. Kelsey now going to pivot into the Guzzlord. Guzzlord really doesn't have to fear a Sky Attack under normal circumstances, and this is a debuffed Sky Attack. We're seeing in real time why this matchup is such a nightmare. DHC has not gotten that Empoleon onto Florges alignment, and Florges' ability to debuff and then set up other Pokemon to take resisted damage is proving to be a nightmare. DHC tried to bank the Sky Attack and switch to reset the debuff, but unfortunately did not survive the Dragon Tail. Back in comes Gyarados. Gyarados immediately under pressure from the Brutal Swing. Shield comes up. Gyarados realizes it cannot get the farm down. It's getting so low, and it's forced to fire off the Aqua Tail to take the knockout. So Kelsey has a shield advantage, has switch advantage as well, and this endgame is going to be an Empoleon mirror once again. Kelsey brings in Empoleon, just has to watch for a potential catch. There's the catch attempt as DHC sends in Empoleon. Kelsey gets the farm up to the Hydro Cannon. Kelsey winning charge attack priority. This is very valuable information for the players to know, as her winning charge attack priority means that she can pretty confidently throw her charge attack whenever she'd like to. The thing to watch for DHC is Kelsey also has the ability to potentially catch out of this matchup onto Florges. Kelsey farming up, DHC predicts the catch, he keeps farming, he predicts the catch, but Kelsey stays on the field, doubles up on Hydro Cannons, wins charge attack priority, and that's gonna secure the game. Kelsey K now up 2-0, only 1 win away from the grand finals. In comes Gyarados, these metal sounds adding up. Gyarados fires off the Aqua Tail at the Empoleon, but there's still a Florges with a shield, and Florges just cannot lose. Florges Fairy Winds down, and that's a 2-0 lead for Kelsey. For game number 3, DHC needs a reverse sweep and gets a very good lead to start with, leading Corviknight into Empoleon. Empoleon can still fight back with big neutral damage with Hydro Cannon, but you would definitely prefer to be the Corviknight here. Hydro Cannon is going to land. Corviknight taking some substantial damage, and Corviknight will go straight for the payback. Payback does not knock out the Empoleon, but neutralizing the Empoleon would be very nice. DHC has actually benched his own Empoleon for this game, and instead has the Altaria Shadow Gyarados backline. Hydro Cannon lands, Corviknight gets knocked out, but this could set up monster farm for DHC. In comes DHC. DHC gets a full farm down with the Gyarados. Kelsey shaking her head. She knows she is in a lot of trouble. The Shadow Gyarados farm is about to completely overwhelm this Florges. Florges normally wins by being able to survive an Aqua Tail just fine, and look at the catch. DHC fighting back in this matchup. He's playing out of his mind. He catches the Trailblaze onto Altaria. Florges gonna stay in. Florges can try and debuff, and will debuff, but this dramatically desyncs the switch timers, and that's good news for DHC. Chilling Water is going to land onto the Altaria. Kelsey going to stay on the field, but even at -1, this Sky Attack is probably knocking out the Florges. Kelsey get a no shield, hoping she can hang on. She does hang on. Can she get the move? No, she cannot. She gets double resisted farmed down by Dragon Breaths, and DHC fights off a trip to the loser's bracket as he's going to be taking this game. Sky Attack will be shielded. Back in comes the Shadow Gyarados with a head of steam, and even though Shadow Gyarados' energy is going to be walled here, Gyarados' damage will still be enough to secure the game, as Gyarados is already almost at back-to-back Aqua Tails, but going to go for the harder hitting Crunch. At this point, Kelsey's doing the math. She knows she cannot win this game. No shields to Crunch. Crunch lands, no debuff, but the damage is done. Gyarados gets the farm down, and we're going to game 4. We've got the Battle of Dragons in game number 4, Altaria into Guzzlord. And Kelsey has made a team adjustment as well. Hunting for that Empoleon, Jellicent has been brought to the field of play. Jellicent, if it can avoid the Furret, is also very strong into this team. With this lead matchup being hyper-neutral, how the players play it out will be interesting. Do they put up early shields and try and fight for switch? No. Kelsey no shield Sky Attack, and Guzzlord loses a lot of its HP. Guzzlord will go for the Brutal Swing. Now it's DHC's turn. Will DHC shield and try and farm down? No. DHC is going to let this go. Altaria deep into the red, but survives on 1 HP to make the last second Sky Attack. Now the decision goes back to Kelsey, and Kelsey decides to shield. Kelsey knows Florges in good alignment is so strong. She's assuming Empoleon's in the back. She has to get that Empoleon onto the Jellicent. In comes Gyarados, but this is not one Dragon Breath range. The Dragon Breath does not knock out, and Gyarados takes big damage from Brutal Swing. Gyarados gets the farm down, but Kelsey has the alignment she's looking for as in comes Florges. Has to watch for a catch. No catch comes through. Gyarados will look to soften up the Florges with this Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is going to land onto the Florges. There's the switch into Empoleon. Empoleon does get the Trailblaze catch. DHC gonna be no shielding. Trailblaze does do some pretty significant damage, and the reveal. She's made a team adjustment. It's not Empoleon in the back, it is Jellicent, and Jellicent is an absolute wall to Empoleon. Empoleon can fire off back-to-back Drill Pecks, and it just will not take the KO. Surf might not knock out, but a Shadow Ball will. DHC, he's gonna call it. No shields calling the Surf, but it's the Shadow Ball. He was so far behind in this game, he had to try and make an aggressive read, but he knows there's no way out. He doesn't have the health remaining on the Gyarados to take home the win. Even the Hex damage just does way too much. Kelsey no shield. She knows that with a shield and a Florges, she cannot lose this game. Aqua Tail lands. There's the switch. In comes Florges. Florges gets the farm down, and Kelsey is advancing to Grand Finals. Great sportsmanship there from DHC, clapping, but he has a date with Stone Collection in Losers Finals. And this matchup is not looking any easier, as the Stunfisk for Stone Collection in particular is very strong into DHC's team. Since Stunfisk is so strong in this matchup, DHC is going to have to rely less on the Shadow Gyarados, which gets melted by double super effective Thunder Shocks, and more on the other flying type, and that is the Altaria. Altaria can still output Dragon Fast Move pressure, but only taking neutral damage from Electric means that this matchup is a lot more neutral. Stunfisk is able to emerge victorious in the zeros, but at the very least, Altaria will get the Stunfisk very low, which is very good news considering there's an Empoleon in the back that also does not want to deal with the Stunfisk. Stone Collection will get to return fire here as he spams out discharges. Stunfisk's pacing is absolutely ruthless, but discharge is a very weak move. meaning that Altaria, even at this low of HP, will not get KO'd. Altaria almost at the Flamethrower. Altaria launches the Flamethrower, but Flamethrower is not going to knock out the Stunfisk either. Stunfisk can look to go for an aggressive Thundershock down, but DHC opts out. In comes Furret, that's going to be answered with Altaria. This is not a favorable mid-game matchup for DHC, but DHC just set up an incredibly favorable endgame, and that is Empoleon into the Azumarill for Stone Collection. Stone Collection ran a line that was ABA strong to that Shadow Gyarados, but DHC has tactically benched it. Gyarados, not the play when you're so weak to Stunfisk. It's gonna be the Altaria show. For launching Swift after Swift at the Altaria, and Altaria will actually put up the shield. For Stone Collection, prioritizing HP on the Altaria. Altaria does not get the farm down, the Furret hangs on, and now Stone Collection has to burn a final shield or lose almost his entire Altaria. Altaria deep into the red, in comes Empoleon, he fires off a Sky Attack bait. DHC, he's thinking about it. He calls the bait, a stone cold read, and Azumarill is revealed as Stone Collection's final Pokemon. Even though Azumarill is walled here, the difference in stat product is immense. Drill Peck after Drill Peck can connect into the Azumarill, and Azumarill just does not care, whereas even the bubbles that are resisted will add up pretty significantly on the Empoleon. Empoleon already at Drill Peck number 2, Empoleon does enjoy a massive pacing advantage. Stone Collection going for a diabolical double resisted Ice Beam bait, but DHC has to protect the Empoleon, so the shield comes up. That does save Stone Collection just a little bit of energy. Another Drill Peck is reached, and the Azu is low enough that will finally have to burn its final shield. Stone Collection could really benefit from a catch here, or potentially if he can make a move on Altaria. The Altaria is very low, but it's very close to a Sky Attack. This time, the Play Rough gets full sent, the shield comes up, Empoleon has to watch for the catch, Azumarill begins the bubble, and it's getting knocked out mid-bubble by this Drill Peck. Now this is tough for Stone Collection. The Stunfisk is very low. Stunfisk on 1 HP, able to hang on and make the Mud Bomb. This neutralizes the Empoleon. This game is going to come down to a race. Which Altaria has more HP? DHC gets the farm down. Stone Collection brings in his Altaria. DHC hangs on, 1 HP remaining to secure the Game 1 win. Battlers lock in for game number 2, and it's a bad lead for DHC, leading Altaria into Shadow Scizor. The hope is that Stone Collection will mess up and throw a Night Slash early, but Stone Collection is a veteran of the competitive scene. Stone Collection knows if you overfarm with Shadow Scizor, it makes this matchup a nightmare. If Shadow Scizor throws the Night Slash instantly into Altaria, then Altaria can just Sky Attack and bail out of the matchup, because it's very easy to save switch something into a Scizor that doesn't have a lot of residual energy. But if Shadow Scizor has a Night Slash banked, it's a lot trickier to save switch something into it. Scizor is going to land a Night Slash, force a shield, and then go for a double shield and a farm down. And that is something DHC cannot allow. DHC safe switches Empoleon, answered with the Stunfisk, but importantly, Stone Collection threw a Bullet Punch before switching out. This puts him 3 turns behind the Empoleon, and that means Empoleon is able to neutralize the pacing advantage of Stunfisk. This means Stunfisk is not going to get to land a move in this matchup, as Empoleon gets to put up the shield, make it to the Hydro Cannon. Just like that, Empoleon neutralized a pretty terrible matchup for it without taking a single charge attack's worth of damage. That's a problem for Stone Collection. Stone Collection forced to bring back in the Scizor and burn the energy here, as Trailblaze will just about take the KO. Trailblaze is going to connect onto Empoleon. Empoleon goes for the Drill Peck to cover for a catch, and that's exactly what Stone Collection did. Stone Collection caught onto the Altaria at its Furret vs Altaria endgame. This is a winning endgame for Altaria under normal circumstances, but because Stone Collection saved Scizor and caught the Drill Peck, suddenly Furret can actually knock out with 2 Swifts and the Sucker Punches. So for Furret, this endgame goes from impossible to suddenly potentially winning. Sky Attack is going to land onto the Furret. That gets Furret very low. Furret is going to look to overfarm ever so slightly and take the knockout with the Swift. It all comes down to this. How many Sucker Punches can the Scizor survive? Will Scizor Bullet Punch down? In comes Scizor. It's a simultaneous knockout, but DHC still has Pokemon alive, so that's going to be a win. DHC sees the same lead in game number 3, and he's only 1 win away from a trip to the Grand Finals and a rematch against Kelsey K. But Stone Collection has not run back the same team. He's made a very important adjustment. As his third, it's still a flying type, but that's not an Altaria. It's Corviknight as the third. So if DHC tries to execute the same game plan, Furret is going to run into a brick wall endgame that is Corviknight. Sky Attack is going to be shielded up, Stone Collection firing off the back-to-back Night Slashes. So far, Game 3 is an exact repeat of Game number 2. Does Stone Collection potentially try and predict the Empoleon pivot and safe switch into the Stunfisk here? It would be a big risk. Doesn't predict it. The Empoleon safe switch happens. And now, so far, this game is played out identically to Game number 2. Empoleon will be able to secure the knockout onto Stunfisk without having a charge attack land, and all it will have to do is give up that final Protect Shield. So DHC, he's thinking about it. Does he switch from Game 2? No, shields at the last second, and will be able to take the knockout. The other adjustment Stone Collection can make is not catching the move. If Stone Collection just let the Scizor get knocked out, then the Altaria could have swept the endgame there. So does Stone Collection make the adjustment, learn from the misplay? Trailblaze into the Empoleon. We know this will not take the knockout. The Bullet Punch after won't knock out as well. And Stone Collection learns from the misplay and stays on the field with the Shadow Scizor. Scizor gonna get knocked out, but now the reveal. It's not Altaria, it's Corviknight in the back, and that's not what DHC was hoping for. You need 2 charge attacks to knock out in this matchup anyway, so Stone Collection will go for the Air Cutter. 30% chance at an attack boost, does not get the attack boost, and Stone Collection should be in a commanding position. Furret gonna go for the Trailblaze, it's double resisted, but at the very least DHC gets to ramp up his damage. Now the Sucker Punches are hitting a lot harder, and that's really the only way that Furret can output any kind of meaningful damage here. Corviknight gets to the Payback lands onto the Furret. Furret hangs on 1 HP to make the Swift, and suddenly we might have a game. It all comes down to this: can Altaria make it to a move? Furret gets farmed down. Altaria double resisting the sand attacks. Does he get the catch? He tries for the catch, but Stone Collection is stone cold. He does not throw the charge attack. The catch is failed, and Stone Collection stays alive in the tournament as he's gonna force a game number 4. DHC still only needs 1 more win to get to Grand Finals, but that's not the lead he was hoping to see. Shadow Marowak staring down Altaria. DHC safe switches in Furret, but this is still a losing matchup for the Furret. Furret fires off the Swift. Stone Collection just does not care about that damage. Swift is going to land, and Stone will immediately hit back hard with the Sky Attack. DHC in a very difficult spot. The only bright side of this current position is that by a Swift landing, the Altaria is now in Marowak Rockslide range. But Stone Collection gets to send out his own Furret, and this is such a comfortable position to be in for Stone Collection. Swift is going to land. He can look to overfarm massively, can't quite get the farm down, so he will fire off the Swift to take the KO. DHC is in a lot of trouble. DHC decides to put up the shield, gets to undertap the Swift, but Swift will not knock out. Stone Collection knows this. Stone Collection is going to be no shielding. Swift is going to land. DHC gets aggressive, pivots Empoleon unable to get the farm down as Furret makes the Trailblaze. Trailblaze into the Empoleon will do some pretty sizable damage, and Stone Collection makes a huge misplay. Stone Collection just switch locked to Stunfisk, and Stone realizes it. If Stunfisk knocks out the Empoleon, this could be the opening DHC needs to fully farm down with the Marowak. So Stone Collection intentionally overfarms to lose CMP, and he's gonna sacrifice the entire Stunfisk. If he lets the Marowak get a farm down, he loses the game, and he can't let that happen. So instead, he's gonna go for the farm with Altaria. The Altaria has taken quite a bit of damage already. These metal sounds are adding up. Shield comes up on the Drill Peck, and in comes the Marowak. Marowak is so far behind in terms of energy. Altaria fires off the Sky Attack, and DHC will put up the shield. Stone Collection will have a catch, and it's looking more and more apparent that he's actually going to need it. Stone Collection farming up, fires off the Sky Attack, the Mud Slap goes through, and now DHC is almost at the back-to-back Rock Slides. Does Stone Collection get the catch? He goes for it, but DHC does not throw the move, and DHC has done it. Stunfisk looked impossible for this team, but he's found a way. Back-to-back Rock Slides. He's moving on 3 games to 1, and he's earned his rematch in the Grand Finals against Kelsey K. If DHC wants to win this tournament, he's going to have to win 2 best-of-5s. Kelsey, out of the winner's side, only has to win 1 best-of-5 to be crowned champion. We've seen this matchup before, and we know it's a nightmare for DHC. The battlers lock in game number 1, Grand Finals here in Toronto, and it's a pretty neutral lead, Empoleon into Altaria. Empoleon will have a nice pacing advantage in this matchup. Kelsey ends up missing a bubble and therefore gets slightly less damage than the maximum. DHC gonna return fire with Flamethrower. This is a pretty solid matchup for the Altaria because Flamethrower into Sky Attack KOs, whereas Double Drill Peck does not. Kelsey farms up, sends in Guzzlord, and this is an attempted bait out of the Empoleon, but DHC does not fall for it. Instead, DHC gonna be sending out the Gyarados. Gyarados no shields the Brutal Swing and loses a massive amount of HP. Gyarados farming up. Gyarados tries to go for the CMP tie, but Kelsey's not gonna fall for it. Instead, Kelsey is gonna put up the shield, take the free Dragon Tail of energy, and Kelsey is gonna get a full farm down. DHC so close to making the Aqua Tail, but unable to get there. And now he sends back in Altaria. Kelsey has enough for the Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb could be lethal. DHC with a call to make, shields the Brutal Swing bait, and that's not what you're hoping to see. There's back-to-back Brutal Swings loaded for Kelsey. Kelsey gets to fire off Brutal Swing number 2. This will not take the knockout, and there's an immediate switch into Empoleon. Empoleon gonna be hit with the Brutal Swing, and this will do a sizable amount of damage. DHC has to decide where does the shield go. He's not gonna use it here. He's gonna be no shielding. Kelsey brings in Empoleon, but Kelsey ends up winning the charge attack priority tie. That's not great for DHC. DHC is going to be putting up the shield and returning fire with the Hydro Cannon, going for an undercharge, but Kelsey shielding. Kelsey knows she has to find a way to get damage onto this Empoleon, and Hydro Cannon is her best way of doing so. Hydro Cannon not going to knock out DHC, but is going to be getting DHC very low. DHC banks the Hydro, sends in Altaria. Altaria gets the snipe down and exits with energy. If Guzzlord can survive 2 Dragon Breaths, she has to bring in the Guzzlord to absorb the energy, but it's so low. She thinks it's too low, and she brings in the Florges. But this Sky Attack landing will put it pretty much into Hydro Cannon range. Florges gets the farm down, but back in comes the Empoleon. Hydro Cannon is loaded, no catch comes through, and this Hydro Cannon will put Florges deep into the red. Can Florges hang on to make it to the Trailblaze? No, it cannot. In comes the Guzzlord. Guzzlord tries to snipe down with the Dragon Tail, but Empoleon on 1 HP, refusing to get knocked out, makes the Hydro Cannon, KOing the Florges, and DHC has his first lead in a series against Kelsey K. Battlers lock in for game number 2, and it's a perfect mirror lead, Empoleon versus Empoleon. We've seen this game play out before with these exact teams, and Kelsey was able to emerge victorious. That's because if DHC ends up getting too low on his Empoleon, then the Florges is absolutely deadly in the endgame. Hydro Cannons are going to be exchanged back and forth in this matchup, neither trainer wanting to put up a shield, but Empoleon HP is very, very vital for DHC. DHC needs to try and preserve either a move on Empoleon or try and preserve a little bit of health. Hydro Cannons traded back and forth, and O-Shield from Kelsey K. Will DHC potentially go for a catch onto Altaria? DHC goes for the catch. Oh, it's a catch attempt onto the Gyarados, and it's Gyarados versus Guzzlord. But this actually ends up working out better for DHC. The Gyarados gets to avoid the Florges, and Florges is going to be put onto the Altaria. And Altaria, even though it is a Dragon type into a Fairy type, it walls off the energy from Florges. Gyarados launching an Aqua Tail. Even a Crunch will not knock out here either, but the back-to-back Aqua Tails means that he can win charge stack priority. Kelsey no shields, maybe hoping for a 1 HP survive, but Guzzlord will get knocked out, and in comes Florges. Florges is at a pacing disadvantage. Gyarados makes the Aqua Tail, and Aqua Tail will do pretty significant damage or remove the shield advantage. Kelsey is gonna no shield. Gyarados farming up, and this is a brilliant play from DHC. DHC switches into the Altaria because Altaria, even though it's a dragon into a fairy, it resists all of the energy. She goes for the Chilling Water, debuffing the Altaria, now going for the Trailblaze, looking to try and ramp up these fairy wins. But she's shaking her head. She knows that even though it's a fairy type onto a dragon type, this endgame looks pretty hopeless. As even with the debuff, Sky Attack is going to do way too much damage. Florges forced to shield a debuffed Sky Attack from the Altaria as Florges goes for another Trailblaze. But Trailblaze, even though it's going to ramp up the fairy winds, it just does no damage to this Altaria. Altaria able to hang on, and Altaria will comfortably make it to the Sky Attack. There is still the charge attack loaded on both of their Empoleons. Sky Attack is going to land. She knows there's no path forward in this game. Altaria gets the farm down, and DHC is 1 win away from bracket reset. And he gets the lead he wants in game number 3, Empoleon leading into the Florges. Safe switch Guzzlord from Kelsey. He doesn't have a clean answer, so he's going to stay in with the Empoleon and fire off the Drill Peck. After the Drill Peck lands, he can look to send in Altaria. This is an open team sheet format, so it's known that she does not have access to Dragon Claw, so he can very safely no-shield. Brutal Swing or Sludge Bomb, neither one will do a ton of damage. Altaria is monstrously bulky. Altaria will not get a farm down here, so Altaria will be forced to fire off a Sky Attack. Brutal Swing from the Guzzlord is going to put Altaria just about into the red HP. Very nice charge attack timing from DHC, who will deliver the knockout with the Sky Attack. However, if Kelsey gets a big farm down here with the Florges, this could get a little bit scary. DHC is going to make a Sky Attack and will fire off the Sky Attack right before he gets farmed down. But Florges energy can actually threaten Empoleon. Sky Attack is going to land, so Florges does lose a lot of its HP, but Florges has 8 Fairy Winds of energy. In comes the Empoleon. Empoleon going to be hit with the Trailblaze. The first Trailblaze is not what you have to worry about. It's going to be that second Trailblaze. The second Trailblaze will knock out the Empoleon. DHC, this is a tough spot to be in, forced to put up the shield, and now the reveal, it's Empoleon in the back. This is tough for DHC. DHC has the Shadow Gyarados, but Shadow Gyarados really doesn't like the Empoleon matchup or the Florges matchup. Hydro Cannon is going to land, and there's the switch into the Shadow Gyarados. Gyarados will survive a Drill Peck, but it's going to be taking some pretty substantial damage. The pacing on Gyarados will be key here, as Gyarados probably doesn't even have to go for the crunch. Instead, Gyarados can just spam out Aqua Tails. And the good news for DHC is there's not a lot of fast move pressure remaining in this matchup into the Gyarados or into the Empoleon. Drill Peck launched by the Empoleon, shield comes up from DHC, the clocks are misaligned. Does Kelsey go for the switch here? Kelsey gonna stay on the field. Oh, tries for the catch, but was mid-metal sound, so the catch will not go through, and she's forced to burn the final shield. She's gonna need a catch to win this game, farming up with the Empoleon, getting the catch, and that could seal it for Kelsey. Kelsey able to waste the Aqua Tail, the undercharge from DHC, it doesn't go through. In comes the Empoleon, but unfortunately he's getting outpaced. She has the Hydro Cannon into the Empoleon. This should KO. Hydro Cannon lands, but no! This Empoleon keeps living on 1 HP. DHC hangs on, takes the knockout, and gets the bracket reset 3-0. So now these battlers play one final best of 5 to determine the champion. Kelsey had a dominant winners finals, but DHC now has all the momentum following the 3-0 sweep. This will be the final set of this tournament. Best of 5, winner take all. The battlers lock in for game number 1, and it's Shadow Gyarados into the Guzzlord. A pretty fine lead if you're DHC, because as long as the Gyarados avoids that Florges, the Gyarados has proven to be very annoying for Kelsey's team. Gyarados gonna strike first as it goes for the harder hitting Crunch. Crunch is gonna land, getting a Crunch debuff as well, so a bit of good luck does go DHC's way. DHC is going to be shielding up the Brutal Swing. Kelsey already at another Brutal Swing. Now DHC has to decide, does he double shield the Gyarados? He does. He's going to get aggressive here, try and go for a full farm down. Gets the farm down with the aid of that Crunch debuff. In comes Florges, and Florges will take some pretty substantial damage from Aqua Tail. The Gyarados is so far ahead that it should make it to double Aqua Tail before they're able to make the Trailblaze. So Gyarados will fire off this Aqua Tail. This will just about KO the Florges. Florges going to be putting up the shield. Does he ever look to pivot into the Altaria? There it is. In comes Altaria, and this decision to pivot into the Altaria is such a good adjustment from the winners finals now to the grand finals. Florges Trailblazes boosting up its attack to fire off the Chilling Water, but even with the boost, Altaria just does not care. Chilling Water is going to land. Altaria is debuffed, and now in comes Empoleon. Empoleon, we've said time and time again throughout these battles, it has an amazing typing, but it doesn't have amazing stats. Even a -1 flamethrower inflicts some pretty significant damage. Drill Peck will not take the knockout, and Altaria, if it wants to, can even make it to a second flamethrower. Switch clock will be up soon for DHC. DHC gets the flamethrower, and this is a big problem for Kelsey. If Kelsey shields, she loses. If she no shields, she also loses. There's the switch into the Gyarados to force the energy from Empoleon, and DHC is locked in. This matchup may feel impossible, but he's making it look easy. In comes Empoleon. Empoleon just gonna get the full metal sound down. That's 4 wins in a row for DHC, and everything is going his way. The battlers lock in for game number 2, and it's a pretty nice lead for DHC as Altaria is going to be met with the Empoleon. And Kelsey has made a dramatic adjustment to her strategy. Florges is off the team. Instead, Jellicent, the Pokemon that secured her the decisive win to move her to these grand finals, is back on the field. And Jellicent, if it gets aligned onto the Empoleon, will be catastrophic for DHC. Flamethrower lands onto the Empoleon returning fire with the Drill Peck, and DHC more than happy to let this go. This Altaria has gotten some very nice value into the Empoleon. Altaria goes for the Sky Attack as soon as it gets it, and Empoleon just gonna let this go. Kelsey can go for a big farm down here, whether it's a Hex down or whether it's a Dragon Tail down. Kelsey brings in the Guzzlord to farm down, and this is a perfect example of line sequencing in competitive Pokemon Go. She's run the same 3 Pokemon again and again and again, so DHC assumes it's Florges in the back and brings Gyarados into the Guzzlord to avoid that matchup. So DHC is saving the Empoleon for the Florges to win the game, but unfortunately, she doesn't have the Florges back there. She's made a key adjustment. She has brought in the Jellicent, and Jellicent is about to absolutely destroy this Empoleon. Guzzlord is able to take the knockout. DHC brings in Empoleon just to meet a brick wall in Jellicent, and Kelsey K will get some momentum back. This series looked over with 4 wins in a row for DHC, but DHC knows there's no way out. Empoleon cannot escape the wrath of Jellicent. 2 Drill Pecks just simply do not do enough damage. She shields just because you have 2 shields, you may as well use them, but we've seen Jellicent can very comfortably survive 2 Drill Pecks. DHC will know there's no path forward in this game. He shakes his head, no shields the Shadow Ball, and it's just going to let the Empoleon get farmed down after. Drill Peck thrown at the Jellicent. Jellicent just simply does not care. That damage is pitiful. Empoleon gets hexed down, and now things get interesting as we have a tied series. For game number 3, the adjustment from DHC, leading Marowak into Empoleon. The safe switch Guzzlord from Kelsey K. So Kelsey's adjustment got her the win in game 2, and the adjustment from DHC in game number 3 to bring a Pokemon that had not been brought to the series immediately pays dividends. Marowak launches Bone Club at the Guzzlord. Guzzlord gonna be no shielding. DHC now gonna send out Empoleon. Now this could potentially open the door to Florges doing well in the back. Brutal Swing is very valuable chip damage onto the Empoleon, and Empoleon is going to have to throw its energy pretty soon, otherwise Guzzlord could have made yet another Brutal. So Drill Peck will be launched, going for an undercharge, but it's too much damage, and it will still take the KO. Back in comes Empoleon for Kelsey K, and DHC might realize that he's in quite a bit of trouble. Kelsey goes for the Hydro Cannon here. She's hoping this will knock out. This looks to be shades of game number 1, and it doesn't KO. Same as before, the 1 HP survive. DHC losing that energy would have been devastating, but he lands a Hydro, banks a Hydro, and gets aggressive. Back in comes Marowak. Mud Slap goes through as Empoleon forces a shield with Hydro Cannon. Kelsey is forced to pivot out and send in the Florges, but up energy, Marowak is about to be the star of the show. Marowak launches Bone Club at the Florges. The big thing for Florges is Florges can't really farm Marowak down. Florges goes for the Trailblaze, trying to ramp up the damage, but because Kelsey stayed into Hydro Cannon earlier, she has sealed her own fate, because that desynced the switch timers. Now, if she shields the Bone Club, she's getting combo played by the Hydro Cannon on the Empoleon. Bone Club is shielded. There's the combo play. In comes Empoleon, and DHC is playing out of his mind. Hydro Cannon lands, devastating damage onto the Florges, and now Altaria just cannot lose. In comes Altaria. This poor Florges can't do anything. It fires off the last second Chilling Water. Altaria does not care. In comes Empoleon, and Empoleon will get knocked out by a Sky Attack. So even though this matchup is so rough for DHC, this is a comeback story. DHC got destroyed in Winners Finals and is now sitting 1 win away from a regional championship. Good lead for DHC in game number 4, leading Shadow Gyarados into Jellicent. Kelsey safe switches into the Guzzlord. No clear response for DHC, so DHC will fire off an Aqua Tail to get some chip and then send in Altaria. Now, Altaria getting brought in here, that's not what Kelsey is hoping to see. Kelsey again has that Florges in the back, and it looks like Florges is going to get crushed by that Empoleon. Brutal Swing after Brutal Swing launched at the Altaria, but Altaria is so good at absorbing this damage. Altaria shakes off that Brutal Swing. Altaria will have to fire off the Sky Attack, and does, ensuring that he doesn't give up a shield advantage for free. Kelsey, however, is looking to try and make a play for a switch advantage. Shield comes up, undertaps the Brutal Swing, and now DHC has to decide, is switch advantage worth it? With an Empoleon in the back, switch advantage is key, and he actually stops tapping to let himself get as low as possible. This will limit the farm. In comes Florges, but Florges is going to get hit with Empoleon. There's the switch into the Jellicent, and in comes Shadow Gyarados. However, these hexes are doing some pretty significant damage. The Gyarados has already taken quite a bit of Dragon Tail damage as well. If Kelsey is able to take a knockout with a Surf in a few more hexes, Kelsey can win this game. DHC, CMP ties, Aqua Tail plus the Crunch. Aqua Tail is going to be shielded, and this game comes down to this. Shadow Gyarados, it does resist Surf. DHC shaking his head. Surf into the Gyarados, does not KO. 1 HP survive again. DHC Crunch picks up the one-hit knockout. In comes Florges, and there is Empoleon. Florges can try and go for the Trailblazes, but the damage is done. There's just too much health on this Empoleon. Empoleon fires off the Hydro Cannon. She goes for the Trailblaze, but the Florges is just going to be simply too low. Florges is going to get fully farmed down by the Empoleon, and DHC is the 2026 Toronto Regional Champion for Pokemon Go. Seeing battlers like DHC United win a tournament in only their 3rd professional tournament is honestly extremely inspiring. DHC ran what he wanted to run. He didn't try and run the 6th best Pokemon. Instead, he brought a Shadow Gyarados, a Pokemon that he believed in even when others didn't, and it paid off in the biggest way. Big congratulations to DHC, the first win of his competitive Pokemon Go career, and to get it so early as well is extremely impressive. And for Shadow Gyarados, this is the first ever Pokemon Go tournament win for Shadow Gyarados. So DHC has officially put Shadow Gyarados on the map. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Homesize Henry, and this is More Size Henry, my second channel where I cover content related to the Pokemon Go Championship Series, educational content, and just any content that I feel doesn't really fit on my main channel. If you enjoy content like this, please do leave a like on the video and subscribe to this channel. It helps the channel grow. And thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next week.